Does every story begin with a logline?
Loglines are a writer's friend, and I think loglines give the framework of the story. So many writers are resistant to the logline, and the logline tells the executive, tells anyone who's asking what the story is, what the framework is, and it shows that the writer has thought out the concept. So value the process of doing a logline, because when you go to the page from the logline, it will be so much easier. When your logline doesn't work, your story doesn't work. So if you go to the page and discover that the story is not working, it starts with the logline.
How does a logline determine whether the story will work?
A logline, if you have the right components. The writers that I work with, I utilize a formula to help them, which is setup of who, create empathy, dilemma, action, goal, twist of irony. And I have so many writers who will say, oh my God, I can't put all that in a sentence. But when you do, it puts everything in order and it tells you what is going to work, what is not going to work. And one of the tools that I learned helps writers is when the adjective describing the central character at the beginning of the logline is something where we get a sense of the void. So that creates empathy for the character, and we see how the goal is a chance for the transformation.
Wow, all that in just, you said you like to give how many sentences?
I like them to do it in one sentence. However, 2 sentences work. I mean, there are many people in the industry who are fine with 2 sentences as long as brevity is something that is there and we get a main sense of the story points, not a rambling second sentence.
Are there certain adjectives that you prefer to use that void?
I like any adjective where I can get a sense of the earlier wound that creates some type of anticipation, that creates some sense of the flaw, where I can get a sense of how the pursuit is going in a direction that gives an opportunity to heal the earlier wound.
Does a screenwriter really need a logline for their movie? Can't they do it later after they've written the script?
I know many writers that do the logline later, and I think that works. However, my preference when working with writers, I notice that when they have the logline, it helps them so much with going to the outline in the script. And when there is a struggle, it's because they don't have a general outline of where they're going. Now, the logline can change, and when you start with the logline and then you see how the story comes through you, and you discover that the story is different than where you started with the logline, then you just rewrite the logline.
So it's not set in stone, that it's flexible.
Yes. It is flexible. The logline is something that writers need to value because it's showing that you have a well thought out concept where you are able to deliver it in 1 or 2 lines and the receiver immediately knows what your story is.
Do you find with some of the people who take your courses that they're open to flexibility and maybe some are more rigid and they have a hard time being open to changes?
I find resistance a lot. So I do feel that the value of doing something like a course is that the writer will get the information. The writer will see the story tool, then they will see the application of the story tool with the clip and the example of a show or film and how to apply the story tool. So the courses, even though you may have resistance, the value of doing a course is that the writer understands your philosophy on story so that it helps them in knowing how to apply it. So there's a tremendous value in giving story tools, giving philosophy, and then illustrating in action with shows or films that are utilizing the story tool at a high level so that the writer understands how to use it.
Is a logline really the job of the screenwriter? Shouldn't that be left to the marketing department?
No, that should not be left to the marketing department. I have seen marketing, I remember there was a series on Fox a number of years ago where the marketing department marketed the show wrong. And because it was marketed in a way, and there was such high hopes for the series, but the marketing made it seem like it's something that it wasn't. And when I saw the show coming from a former current programming executive point of view, I saw the reason that the audience didn't show up because of that gap. Now, I think there are many marketing professionals who know how to coin a story in a way that maybe adds to the writer's intention. However, I feel that no one knows the story like the writer.
What do you mean when you say learn to identify the log lines in your own life?
Emotional truth. So emotional truth is, for me, something that adds depth when you know the emotions that you're exploring in a story, when you've gone through that emotion, then you can take us so much further into it. And I feel like with everything going on in the world right now, that people are craving depth and authenticity, and people are craving the feeling of someone sees me, someone knows me. And that only comes from an emotional truth of someone who has experienced something similar to what the main character is going through.
So you think maybe in the past we wanted to see more of like a dream version of who we are, but then now we actually want to see ourselves, the warts and all, represented?
Yes, I do. I think that's very well put. It used to be that you wanted a character, you always want a character you empathize with and you root for. So no matter how flawed a character is, I think the balance of finding positive traits to negative traits is a very big challenge, because it is so important for the writer to create a vulnerability with the character that lets the audience in. And streaming certainly has opened up the gate to character arcs that are going so much deeper. And I think when I compare streaming to television, I feel like film also goes to a depth that streaming goes to. And I think the network shows are starting to catch up with that. But I feel like there's more liberty in streaming and film to go through the transformational arc and to not feel the surface part of the character, but through understanding the wound, the flaw, the dream, the biggest fear, creating multi-dimensional characters that mean something.